Somehow I woke up out in Beverly, fucked up, smelling like that bourbon. And I end up alone. I'm not certain. Yeah, the girls impolite in the club every night. That's how it goes when you Hollywood perfect. Hollywood perfect.
Wagwan people, Lemony here, back again with another episode of the FWA Local to Global here on my channel, and we are starting things off in the roster page here. We are kind of trying to make a decision at this point on Taonga. Obviously we've brought in a bunch of new signings. We've got a couple people on the roster still that I think maybe we might need to part ways with, at least for the meantime. There's a couple people that are just kind of under the standard of what I kind of am expecting, and obviously the levels that we need to kind of raise up a little bit. So here I'm just taking a scroll through contracts and taking a look at travel and stuff like that. Obviously it's taken me a little bit of time to actually get into understanding the travel clauses, and basically now knowing that Shanna is actually costing us 160 as opposed to the 60. I think it might even be 260. No, I think it is 160 actually. It's not really worth it. So what I've done is I've done a bunch of scouting of talents that are currently based in southern England that we can potentially bring in to replace the outgoings. But what I'm not going to do at the moment is I'm not going to just nuke our roster and get rid of everybody, because obviously we've got storylines going on with a couple of the guys in Scotland. We've got other things going on, and we've got decent performances coming in from some of them as well. So I don't really want to lose any momentum we currently have. So I know you're probably wondering why this is post-com, considering I said I was going to try and do it live-com. Basically what happened is in the recording for this episode and the next one, my audio just didn't record, so this is all live-com footage, so I'm kind of having to watch along with you guys so that I can commentate over it for you guys, so you kind of get a vibe of what's going on. So yeah, the last episode, hopefully we should be back to live-comming this, so it's a bit more flowing and a bit more structured. So we're just taking a look at our shows. We're booking in our August show, which I think we went for the 22nd of August, which is a Friday. You can also see our June and July shows got our highest rated yet, at both being 42. However, it didn't help us grow to 2, which was quite frustrating, because I thought that we might actually be able to push it over there with us having 2 very good performances basically, but it didn't end up working that way. So I've kind of decided in my head that I think we're just going to eat most of the costs that we've got going for the rest of this year. Considering we're already in August, I think it makes less sense now to kind of nuke our roster, like I said earlier, potentially lose out on ratings, potentially lose out on attendance growth and stuff like that. So I think we'll just keep it with how we're going. I'm going to upgrade our merch, because the next level of merch doesn't actually cost anything still, so it's still free to make, I'm pretty sure, but it gives you a slight boost, maybe like $20-30 boost, as opposed to the level that we're currently at. So we can eat the cost of that upgrading. We can go up to the next level, and hopefully with attendances improving, that will improve our merch sales as well. We then see that there is a news post about June Lee, who is someone that I had noticed and put on our shortlist. She's got very good aerial and flashiness, and her charisma and stuff is pretty decent. She needs a lot of work on the other stuff still, but I thought, considering that she's getting touted out on news stories, it might be a good idea just to try and get her on the roster early, because if she does at some point have a massive growth, obviously it would be great to have her on our books so that we can kind of utilize that growth basically. So we do offer her a contract. We also do sign Mark Billington here for 6 months. He had some decent looking stats. I'm not sure at the moment if he's going to be a world beater for us, but like I said, he had some decent stats, so I don't think there was a reason really for us not to sign him. Also, considering he's based in southern England, means no travel being paid, so it was someone that I kind of thought yeah, why not? We might as well sign them. Here you can see we do offer Shanna a 1 month, 1 appearance contract to kind of signal her end for now with FWA. I do at some point want to bring her back because her stats are unbelievable and her popularity is pretty good as well. But at the moment, I can't keep eating too many costs, and I think we've got a better thing going, and Alice Inc. had a better performance than her. So I think we're going to keep Alice Inc. and let Shanna go. June Lee here, we also then discovers, because I forgot to check it, has a sleazy personality trait, which means if she's got bad morale, she'll bring bad morale to the backstage area, which isn't great. She also has a natural negative influence, but what I'm hoping is that basically at the moment we're just in a better place, so it can't really be a problem. We then also do see that Herman Christensen has a problem here. He's bringing a natural negativity to our backstage, and I wasn't really sure why. He has got grifter. He has no natural impact on the backstage environment unless unhappy, but he's currently pleased. So I'm not, that one's confusing me a little bit because we can't actually make him any happier. So that is a bit of an annoying one, to be honest, because we can't really solve that. You can see besides from that, we've pretty much got everything else going for us. I do then see here that Joe Lando has a deep friendship with Maverick Mayhew, but obviously we're planning on letting Maverick Mayhew go. So that wasn't great really, but I don't think it really should affect Joe Lando's contract too much. This one was quite devastating, to be honest. Leon Slater has now moved to the Northwest, which means we probably won't be bringing him in at any time soon because he's currently worth $170 per show. Now it will be 200 travel on top of that, so it'll be $370, which unfortunately for us at the moment is just way too much for us to pay. We just literally can't handle that. And then a very interesting email coming in. Obviously we've been kind of tracking Konosuke Takeshita and what he's been doing defense wise with the AEW International Championship. AEW did book him for a one-night show at All In, I think it was Dallas, Texas, was it? Something like that anyway. But yeah, you can see he does actually outperform almost everyone except for Kenny Omega, I think. Everyone else he does outperform. But Hangman Adam Page is the new AEW International Champion, so they have found a way to take that title off of him finally after he left the company with it. I think it may be through one of their alliances with either New Japan or DDT. But yeah, he does actually outperform everyone in the match. They put an absolutely stacked lineup against him. Kazuchika Okada, Kenny Omega and Hangman Adam Page just to try and get that belt off of him, and they do succeed in doing so. So absolutely huge for AEW there that they've got their title back. We then do get the notification that Sapphire Reed's contract is coming up in 30 days, as well as Shea Purser and Maverick Mayhew leaving. Obviously, we definitely wanted to re-sign Sapphire Reed. There's not even a question about the fact that we want Sapphire on the books. So we do go back in and negotiate. She still only wants 60 per show at the moment, so we definitely want to get a lockdown for as long as we can. So we go for a 2-year. I don't want to push it too much. But yeah, she's absolutely huge for us, and I think she's going to be massive for us going forward as well. Putting in some of our best female performances right now, bar the champion, to be honest. Here I am just taking a look through at contracts and also expiries and travel clauses as well, to try and kind of make up in my head a short list of who we're going to keep and who's going to leave. Joe Lando here, I really still didn't know what to do with Joe Lando. Like, his stats are just still incredible. He's got great popularity as well. I think I wanted to keep him around, so I do end up negotiating a new contract for him to try and keep him around, and his prices also haven't gone up. So this is just me double checking the June Lee personality type. Casey Owens is another interesting one because obviously she's currently based in Ireland, with our travel problems being a thing as well. It's a very strange place to be in, to be honest, because I didn't quite have the travel clauses nailed down, and yes, that is on me. But now I just don't really know who to get rid of and who to keep. But we're definitely going to be keeping Sapphire Reed for the next 2 years. So that is going to be huge for our women's division. Do have big plans for Sapphire in the future. Not rushing things right now, but I think that she's going to have a very big impact on us going forward. Then here we're just checking out a couple of the creative ideas that we've got left over from booking meetings. I think I'm going to start picking up some more character ideas that we can use for morale potentially. We did have a Krieger one here that he had given to us. It's a near certainty, and we are planning on giving him a bit of momentum going forward, so we thought we might as well up his momentum as well. Will Cruz was upset here because his gimmick was bad. Basically, it wasn't received well by the fans whatsoever, so I did want to change his gimmick, and I've gone for a gimmick that I'm not necessarily sure will be better for him, but it's something that I thought may be interesting and is a big swap. I don't know if we necessarily do that in this episode. I was basically checking through everything here because there's a lot of things that he can't play, but obviously he plays dominant and he plays something else. Well, I can't remember what it is, but he was on a Weasley underdog gimmick, which I found strange because obviously he plays dominant well. I didn't think he'd be on a Weasley / underdog because it kind of just doesn't actually make sense for him. So we do go in and take a little look at dominant to see what is potentially there for us to use. There wasn't anything, to be honest, that was really standing out immediately. It took me a little bit of looking through to kind of see what I thought would potentially fit with what we're trying to do with Will Cruz. Big Friendly Giant was one that I was very tempted by. Bully was another one that I was tempted by because obviously he's a heel at the moment. World's Most Dangerous Man as well, but it was kind of more MMA boxing kind of focused, which obviously wouldn't work for this. Raging Bull I was quite tempted by, but I didn't want him just to be fighting all the time. And then we see Man Beast, which is obviously the Rhino gimmick, where they're kind of known for their kind of feral instincts, I guess. And I decided, yeah, I could see Will Cruz pulling off a kind of Man Beast gimmick down the line. I didn't really know what to go for, so I just decided to call it Bear and go for that. So we're going to repackage Will Cruz as a kind of not dormant, but like docile-ish creature until he basically gets annoyed and then just absolutely destroys people. Obviously it's going to make things a little bit complicated for booking him going forward, but I have got some ideas, so we will wait and see. Then I do make the Echelon, Jackie Polo and Daz Black as a tag team, or did I already make them? I can't remember, but we did put them in as a tag team here. Now with Charlie Sterling, I think I actually made them a stable properly. Yeah, I did definitely make them a stable. I think maybe I was just looking at tag teams. Obviously, eventually down the line, the plan is for us to get the tag team scene going. This one was interesting because Krieger and Liu King Sharp have a very well-known tag team, which I didn't know about, Glasgow Grindhouse. So that kind of gives me more inspiration to maybe keep Krieger around. I had maybe been thinking, obviously, with a lot of the Scottish lads, that wouldn't be a thing that we do. But Liu King Sharp, obviously, I do want to keep around purely because he's surprised me with how good that he's been. And now knowing that he has a solid tag team with Liu King Sharp, that may be something that we look into. Actually, that's what I was doing. I was deleting the Echelon tag team because then they don't actually tag together at all. I'm currently in between two ideas with the Echelon tag team side of things. I'm tempted to bring in someone else to tag with Charlie Sterling as part of the Echelon, but I did a little bit of research and looked at this as well, and you can see there Nick Riley is actually a well-known tag team partner of Charlie Sterling, so that one was quite interesting to me, because I thought maybe that could be the tag team that we bring in, the Smoking Aces, because they're kind of known for their heelish ways. And also, when I looked at Nick Riley here, he is actually a cruiserweight, only 90 a show, and lives in Southern England. Not someone that I had been scouting. He is someone that does have pretty decent attributes personality-wise, plays heel very well. He is a dynamo, professional, and a tag team specialist. So it kind of seems obvious to bring him in for our tag team division. Like I said, when we signed Charlie Sterling, I wasn't aware that he was someone who was well known as part of a tag team. I actually had heard of the Smoking Aces, surprisingly, but I actually didn't realise that it was these guys. It's kind of one of those weird things. I watched Charlie Sterling and Nick Riley's last match as a tag team, but for some reason when it came to being on the game, it didn't even factor into me. So that's probably on me more than anything else for not realising that for some reason. But yeah, we do sign up Nick Riley, and I do actually have a couple ideas for storyline stuff that we could do with Nick Riley and Charlie Sterling. Obviously, we've got Charlie Sterling deep in the echelon stuff right now, but it could be... basically, I'm going to say there could be offshoots. There's things that I've thought up that might work well for both of them, but at the moment, Nick Riley is going to be joining our cruiserweight division because he actually looks like a very good cruiserweight and potentially someone that could come in and give us decent matches in that division as well. So I was looking here, obviously, because Nick Riley plays heel very well. He was coming in as a dirty gimmick, I think it was, but I was kind of looking around to see, do we change that? Because I had some ideas for what we could do with him differently as a face, but I did in the end decide we would just leave it as how it was and kind of leave. There's still a way forward with what we are doing that we could make it work still, basically. I was then taking a look at Mark Billington's gimmick. I'm not really sure why I was contemplating changing this, but he basically can't play anything else besides from Weasley and Underdog. But I can't, if I'm 100% honest with you guys, I can't remember why I was even looking at changing that. We do have a couple morale issues, as you can see on there, with Will Cruz and Shanna. Obviously, Shanna's leaving us, so that's not too much of a problem. Obviously, Will Cruz, his stuff is just with his gimmick, so we maybe have to just leave that and it might solve itself. Here we are just assigning the new signings that we have made to their retrospective divisions. Mark Billington into Cruiserweight, Nick Riley obviously into Cruiserweight, and June Lee into the Young Lions division. I think I swapped June Lee's at one point or another because I think it became too confusing for me basically to find the Young Lion division every time I was trying to book, so I did just eventually put her in the women's division, but it is what it is. I then take a look at June Lee's kind of charisma, her mic stuff, and I decide that I actually think that she could benefit from maybe being with a slightly more experienced head and seeing if she could potentially be a manager. We do go in and ask her if she would be interested in being a manager, which she accepts. Then we need to find her a face to manage. I think in the end, after scrolling through, I think Luca DePazzi makes the most sense. He himself doesn't have bad charisma or microphone stuff, but I thought it would just be an interesting dynamic to kind of see Luca DePazzi. He's got decent experience and stuff, to see if he could potentially help us down the line, help June Lee get better, basically. I think I actually originally here do set it wrong. I set Luca DePazzi to manage June Lee, not June Lee to manage Luca DePazzi, which I didn't want it the other way around. I just wanted Luca DePazzi to be managed by June Lee, but eventually I'll work it out and it sorts itself out, basically. because she is going to be his manager, not the other way around. He won't be present for her matches. Obviously, most of her matches at the moment are going to be pre-show matches, but after we test her out a little bit and see how she's doing, it could maybe be an idea to see if Luca Topazzi will benefit her matches being at ringside. But for the time being, with her only being a young lion, we're not going to bother. We then do get a bunch of body changes coming in here. So you can see, obviously, our played character body change comes in, but that's kind of is what it is because it's our played character. He has to do it. Daz Blacks comes in. Joe Lando has got one. Miles Kamen. And then Chris Bay. But obviously Chris Bay doesn't currently work for us. He is actually currently out with a broken neck, just like he was in real life. Mark Coffey was someone that I was potentially looking at trying to sign. However, he has now re-signed, so he will not be available to us for at least 2 years. I think it is, maybe 3. Dalton Castle also came up as well, but again, I don't think he was someone that we would actively bring in because he's currently based in the US, which is just too much travel for us to pay, basically. Will Ospreay did go out on loan, but it wasn't anything that big a deal. I'm not really sure why I looked at it for as long as I did, but obviously Will Ospreay would be an absolute dream signing for us if we could bring him in at some point, but not really something that we're going to currently be able to do. So we're just looking through a couple different things here just to see what's going on in the wider world. Yuto Nakashima has left WXW. I believe he's going back to New Japan. Obviously he was on excursion. You can see there he was actually had been offered the deal by New Japan, so he will be going back to New Japan, probably on the exclusive as well. Actually doesn't even work in the British Isles at the moment, which obviously he literally did work in the British Isles because he worked for us, but might have been through loan. I just want to see what they were offering. It's $4,000 a month for 2 years, which obviously not even remotely a point in us trying to pretend that we could ever pay that much, because it just isn't possible. Up top there, we do actually have 2 very interesting ones, because Tate Mayfairs and Alexis Falcon both actually left Progress, so I could kind of get the vibe that something was going on with Progress, because we'd seen off camera a couple times, we saw a couple talents either walk out or leave Progress, so something's definitely going on over there at the moment. So it's something to keep an eye on, because Progress talent seem to be leaving at a rapid pace. I was very tempted here to bring Tate Mayfairs in. He does look pretty decent at the moment, but what actually happened here is I clicked on Tate Mayfairs to check his rating in his match with Yu Owada, and I saw Yu Owada's rating, and it actually sold me on him more than Tate Mayfairs. He does put in decent to high 40s, Tate, so he definitely is someone to keep an eye on, I think, but at the moment I don't think he necessarily comes in and brings anything huge to our roster. Popularity wise, there's not loads and stuff like that, so I just decided at the moment we'll just kind of leave him to cook and see how he progresses. Anna Jay then actually leaves AEW, which I thought was a very interesting one. She's not got really any standout stats per se. She's currently worth $260, so we wouldn't be able to sign her anyway with the travel. On top of that, it would be almost $500 a show, which is not something we currently have the budget for. So, but it was interesting to see that talent are starting to move around. That it's frustrating to see some talent moving and wishing that I could put offers in. Shanna then leaves FWA, which obviously we already knew because she was going to leave after a month or after one appearance. But like I say, she's definitely someone that I'm planning on bringing back, maybe when we get a little bit more of our money situation sorted out. She's currently 43, so we're going to have to watch to see if she's still going to be around. Something about Simon Miller then pops up, and I was kind of going back and forth with myself over whether Simon Miller would actually be a worthwhile signing for us. And then looking at his popularity and the fact he's based in Southern England, I was starting to think maybe he's someone we could look into. It was actually that he'd been released by Progress, which is another one of those interesting interactions that we've been seeing in Progress, where it seems more and more talent are starting to leave Progress, so there's definitely something going on there with Progress, so that is something to keep an eye out. Obviously they're actually a direct competitor to us at the moment, so we'll have to keep an eye out and see what is going on with them. We then do see that Anna Jay gets hired by Sekuban, which is interesting that she got a job so quickly. Also out in Japan, she's now traveling to, but she does actually go up to 400 per show. She was on 260, then goes up to 400. Obviously she's quite marketable, so I think it probably means that she'll make the money back. You can see I was leaving the Simon Miller email the whole time, kind of going back and forth in my head over whether we would bring him in or not. I was kind of then being like, can we get him on the next show? Do we do a one show? But I think with the lack of travel, with his popularity going to be one of the highest in our company, I basically slowly talked myself around to being like, well, if we're not paying travel, it's only 110 per show, it's not really that bad. I did decide to offer Simon Miller a contract, so I think it will be interesting to see, because I think he could bring a decent boost to a couple segments. Like I said, he's not a world beater in terms of wrestling. He's not going to be pulling in crazy ratings, I don't think, but popularity wise he will be a draw basically. I was then just taking a little scouting break to look at Zack Sabre Jr.'s performance in the G1, and he has absolutely crazy performances all the way through. I think it was in the final he pulled off a 90, but this match against Konosuke Takeshita, he actually gets outperformed by Takeshita, who hits a 93, which is absolutely crazy. I don't think I've even seen a rating that high. I've not been playing this game for that long, but I don't think I've seen a rating that high as of yet. So that was definitely interesting to see. We then do skip forward and we will confirm the signing of Simon Miller to our heavyweight division. We're obviously looking for boosts in our heavyweight division because it just isn't really there at the moment. You can see me there, that's why I'm pointing out that he's got popularity all across the board. So that's really the reason that we're bringing him in. He's got very good personality attributes. He's a good storyteller, obviously, with being a YouTuber. He obviously does have outside interest, but at the moment that's not really an issue for us. He has a positive outlook. He's got deep roots, so he'll never leave South England, so he'll always be available for us. He's basically got a lot more positive than negative, and I don't think 110 is an obscene amount of money to be paying for someone that's just got this many positives about them, really. So I think I was selling it to you guys as much as I was selling it to myself. He doesn't really fit the bill in terms of a technical wrestler, but we've got kind of a lot of big bruisery types in our heavyweight division at the moment anyway, so with him being a decent brawler, I think that's probably okay. I'm also tempted at some point to maybe ask him if he wants maybe a commentary role or an interviewer role or something like that. I don't, obviously we'd have to talk to him and see if he'd be interested in that kind of thing. But then yeah, we do only have 3 days from there until the show. I was booking it around whether Amari would be available, because I did have a big angle / match planned for Amari for the next show. Obviously after being injured by Charlie Sterling, he definitely wanted to get his revenge on that one, so we did book it around that. He does return in time. His body has taken a hit now. I think it was down to 79% or something, but stat wise he hasn't dropped anywhere. He was only out for maybe just over a month, I think, so he didn't take a hit anywhere. I do have plans for Amari, so that's why I was kind of eager to get him back in for the next show that we were going to run. So that's why we're aiming for the end of the month. But yeah, so besides from that, there wasn't really a lot for me to be rambling on about. I don't know why I was rambling on about my scouting and stuff so much. Surely I was saying something interesting. But there was a bunch of people that I was looking at who I think can be good replacements for us should we decide to do a roster purge of any travel clauses, which is one idea that I have. it's not necessarily the idea that I'm going to go for. But yeah, anyway, I'm going to stop rambling about that because it's showtime. I think here I did decide to give a couple nights off. I think I gave one. No, actually, I think I ran to. No, I didn't give anyone off this time. I had been giving, obviously, nights off to Tawonga and to Shea Purser and Maverick Mayhew, but we decided to change that around this time. We are expecting 78 fans in this time as well, so it is matching the amount of fans that we were expecting the time before. So I was a little bit disappointed that we didn't get any more, but obviously we're going to go in, try and stack up some creative finishes. We do get a safe bet there, which is a good one. Then we get a bit of a gamble, which we will keep because it is still usable. It's not the best, but it is usable. But that would be all for the booking stuff. We may add someone else to the booking team eventually. Do pop an Inspire for this one because it's been a while as well, so might as well pop it and get a good boost from the rest of the roster. And then this will be what we'll be running. We'll be starting off with the pre-show match, Tawonga versus June Lee, before we have a pre-show angle. We'll then give Mark Billington his debut against Leon Cage before we start the show with an angle. We then have Jackie Polo taking on a mystery opponent, then obviously an angle for Sapphire Reed before she attempts to take on Casey Owens and Raven Creed. Krieger versus Will Cruz will go off, and then in the main event we'll see Daz Black, Kenny Williams and Zosiah before we end with a post-show angle from Luca DePazzi. But starting this one off with the pre-show match, Tawonga versus June Lee, and as you can see, there are reds all over the place, so it did not go very well. The one that confused me the most was the match dragging in the middle, considering it was less than an 8-minute match. Tawonga only got 17, June Lee got a 14, so considering that's our young lion up against an established roster member, for me that was kind of the signal there for me that I just didn't think Tawonga was longed for a future with FWA at the moment. She just isn't really pulling in what we need performance wise, especially with the new signings we have. We then see a shot of Alice striking a heavy bag in the back when all of a sudden Chantel blasts her from behind before the two end up in a wild brawl, which is eventually split up. Owner Ashton Smith then announces that in the next Ascension, Alice and Chantel will settle things in a shoot match. Obviously, a shoot match being a kind of more realistic, brutal match. Still goes by the same rules of pinfall, submission, also knockout, I believe. But yeah, that is what we're going to see these two go for their second match in. It was a 34 overall, so pretty decent rating. I think things between these two are working decently right now, so that is decent to see. Then we move on to the next pre-show angle, which is Leon Cage versus Mark Billington. Mark Billington does defeat Leon Cage in 7 minutes 73. However, as you can see by the ratings, Leon Cage massively outperforming Mark Billington. Leon Cage getting a 39, Mark Billington getting a 15. So our new signing not really pulling in what we need in terms of rating, considering Leon Cage again is meant to be one of our young lions that we're using at the moment. I've actually also found out that Leon Cage is a real person, so eventually I will be changing his picture. I didn't realise he was a real person because he didn't have a face in the game. I thought he was a generated character, but he isn't, so we will change that eventually. We then do have an angle where 2/3 of the echelon are in the ring and the undisputed champ is going on a tirade about how he's cleared out the division, also mentioning that Ashton should retire the belt. Ashton says he has found an opponent for Jackie Polo to defend the belt against tonight, and why? Here's why, as Simon Miller makes his way out to the stage to be the opponent that will face Jackie Polo for the undisputed British Heavyweight Championship tonight. Obviously a surprise for everybody well, not really you guys, because you knew that we signed Simon Miller and that we were going to be trying to get him in. But Simon Miller's first match in the company will be with the undisputed champion. But before that match even starts, Omari shows up and pulls Charlie Sterling out the ring by his ankles as the two fight all the way to the back. Obviously Charlie Sterling being the man, as we mentioned, to injure Omari. Omari making his return, looking to take his revenge on Charlie Sterling, as well as keeping Charlie Sterling away from the match between Simon Miller and Jackie Polo. So this one does actually turn out to get a 36, which isn't a bad rating overall. It didn't really dip anywhere either. You can see it kind of got solid 30s all the way through. Simon Miller's gimmick did get a very good rating, the Bald A-Hole, which is obviously a great name for a gimmick as well. So it's nice to see that he's getting a good reception on joining us as well. Ashton Smith worked the crowd well and improvised. The improvisation basically helped the segment, as well as the segment getting the crowd hotter, and also the storyline Ashton versus Polo has progressed, but surprisingly lost heat in this one, which obviously isn't great, but it has been going on for a while now, so maybe the fans are getting a bit tired of it. And in that match, Jackie Polo does defeat Simon Miller by submission after blatantly cheating, which obviously is the story of Jackie Polo's reign at the moment. But it is a 41 overall, so a pretty good segment all in all. A 40 for both men, so Simon Miller definitely showing that he can keep up with the champ. So nice to see that we have got a decent heavyweight added in. Like I said, we didn't think he'd set the world on fire in terms of his in-ring performances, but showing he can keep up is important. Sapphire Reed is fired up and wants a piece of Casey Owens and Raven Creed. She doesn't care if it's a 2v1 match or a straight fight. She just wants them both, as we see Casey and Raven making their way down to ringside. And it looks like they have got their prey locked in, but Sapphire is not backing down whatsoever. Like she said, she wants a fight with these two women, but both Raven and Casey hop up on the apron, looking like they're going to take out Sapphire, before all of a sudden the FWA Undisputed Women's Champion shows up in the ring, and she will be the one to back up Sapphire Reed against Casey and Raven. Again, 32 for this one. Fell a bit flat in the last segment, but the middle segment got a decent rating, so we definitely can't complain about that. It's mostly good as well. Casey Owens struggling a little bit. I don't think I maybe booked them in the right roles kind of thing. I'm still kind of working out what angles work better for what, because there wasn't actually any talking besides from Sapphire in that segment. So Raven and Casey shouldn't have been talking whatsoever, but obviously you can see that there is a mark down there for Casey Owens struggling, going off script. So it is what it is. We do see Riddle, About It and Dark Sisterhood both advance with this segment as well, which then leads on to a tag team match between the four women that gets a 42, and we see Sapphire Reed and Laura Di Matteo defeat Casey Owens and Raven Creed when Casey Owens intentionally got disqualified while fighting Sapphire Reed. Raven Creed did struggle the most in this one. You can see Laura Di Matteo as a champion way ahead with a 50. Sapphire not too far behind with a 44, but about 6 behind. Raven Creed only getting a 32, and Casey Owens with a 43. So obviously I had kind of been hinting at Raven going after the champ, but after seeing the 3 performances in there, I decided that because we're doing the Dark Sisterhood stuff, that we can kind of filter that across to Casey instead, so she will take the lead role on that instead of having it the way that it was before we see a wild brawl between both Krieger and Will Cruz. Obviously this is a bit of a rivalry that we have been building recently, with Will Cruz going after Krieger once or twice now, but I didn't think that just a straight up match between the two really made sense for the kind of rivalry that they've got going on. So we did decide to make it a wild brawl, make it a little bit more kind of hardcore-ish, but without making it a hardcore match basically. You can see also we've got highlights for this one. Will Cruz did dominate the early goings of this match, showing off his strength impressively as well. Krieger was kind of getting run over for a big majority of this match. Will Cruz definitely using that slight weight advantage that he had. You see, now we're starting to get a little bit of the weaponry in. Krieger slamming Will Cruz's head onto the corner of that table. So you can see the Wild Brawl truly coming to fruition here in 2K. Like I said before, I need you guys to let me know if you want me to do this in a kind of commentary style or whether you just want me to ramble over the top of it. I think for this episode I'll just stick to rambling. I might try commentary next episode, so we'll see how that goes. But yeah, Krieger here does hit a thrust kick on Will Cruz, and it looked like the match may be over. However, Will Cruz does manage to get a shoulder off the mat. Very competitive match between these two. I can say that I actually enjoyed watching this one quite a lot. I'm trying to kind of do that thing where you build multiple challengers, but at the moment with Krieger and Will Cruz, I don't really know who I want to come out on top of it, so it's a bit of an interesting one because I'm kind of just trying to build both of them. This was an absolutely brutal powerbomb on Krieger on the outside here by Will Cruz. No regard for his opponent whatsoever, just slamming his back on the mat. See, he sends him back into the ring. However, as he gets in the ring, Krieger does manage to hit him with the small package and rolls him up. Krieger will walk away as your victor in this match. I thought this was the smartest way to kind of walk away with both guys being relatively strong. Krieger was obviously getting dominated, struggling a little bit, and then does get the small package to roll up Will Cruz. It does get 37 from Krieger, 35 from Will Cruz, so not bad all in all. Like I say, I don't really know at the moment who I'm planning on having come out on top of all of this, but this is kind of the offshoot that I always envisioned after Krieger was done with his mini rivalry with Levi Muir as well. So we do then change Will Cruz to his new gimmick. Obviously his last one was quite poor, so we now do swap that over before we move on to the next match. And I believe the main event's up next. Yeah, it is. And it is the three-way Daz Black versus Kenny Williams versus Ozaya. Does get a 51, which is absolutely huge. Kenny Williams does defeat Daz Black and Ozaya when Kenny Williams pinned Daz Black with the swinging DDT. It is his 6th defense of the Cruiserweight Championship, so definitely one of the most active champions that we have. Ozaya was heads and shoulders above the rest of the field in this one, with Daz Black being a weak link. Basically what I wanted to do here was I wanted to push towards the Ozaya Kenny Williams rivalry, but also at the same time remove Daz Black from the Kenny Williams rivalry that I had been setting up. Obviously I'd had a lot of back and forth between Kenny Williams and Daz Black without much product, and Daz Black, I've come to realise, basically just isn't good enough to be a main competitor, especially in the division right now that is absolutely leading the way for FWA. So this, I thought, was the smartest way to protect Ozaya. Obviously he doesn't take the pinfall loss, so he still has a legitimate claim to a championship match against Kenny Williams, as well as moving Daz Black out, with Daz Black now kind of having run his course with challenging Kenny Williams pretty much. So I thought this was the smartest way basically to wrap all of this up. But yeah, it does end up being a very good match. 33 for Daz Black, 43 for Kenny Williams, and the 53 for Ozaya, with the storyline also advancing. I think it gained heat as well. And then I went for a little bit of a experimental sort of promo for Luca DePazzi to see if he could kind of announce Jun Lee being his new manager. Unfortunately, the angle completely flopped, so it only got 15 overall, and it was terrible because I tried to let him improvise, where I really now understand that I shouldn't have done that, and I should have had him do it scripted. But yeah, it ends up not being great all in all. So yeah, unfortunately, I think this could have been a really, really hot show, bar the start with Taonga and the end with Luca DePazzi, which is a little bit unfortunate, but it kind of is what it is. We then decide to point out Will Cruz as a good example and also praise Zosiah for his performance. We do get a boost for Zosiah, I think it was. I don't know if we did get a full boost there. Do lose 2k on this one, which obviously isn't a surprise because we're booking in more European talent still, so we're going to keep losing money basically. The financial reports that I have put in these, there won't be ever be a positive. And unfortunately somehow we still do not make it up to number 2. We must be really close now, like it must be literally a couple of percent away from us leveling up to level 2. We're putting on our best performances, but our best performances aren't giving us popularity gain, which obviously is massively frustrating, but it kind of is what it is. This one I then found very funny because underneath this one that I was looking at as a shortlisted guy that we had, Taonga was upset with her low use and her loss of momentum, considering she hasn't had a match where she's rated above 23, I think. I was just at actual disbelief in this one, and I think for me this kind of represented my final straw for her. I didn't really think we were going to keep her around after her last performance anyway, and then with her now having the negative, being annoyed and also basically complaining about something that's half her fault, I was just like, do you know what? I think it's probably time that we just move on from Taonga. We've got better women in this division now. She's not living up to that standard. She barely outperformed our young lion that we've just brought in. So we'll give her the 1 month, 1 appearance contract, and we'll see her on her way out. Probably not likely to see her back in the company unless she massively improves somehow. But you never know what could happen in these games. She may massively improve while she's not with us, so definitely something to keep an eye on. So then I do just go back to expressing my disappointment with the fact that we are still only 1 popularity at the moment in Southern England. We do have obviously spillover for Wales and Midlands, I think it is, but at the moment those also haven't increased, even though we have actually run shows in Wales and Midlands, be it by accident, but we did run shows there. Our last show does end up being our best rated show, like I said, but I'm just saying here that I think we probably could have got the popularity rise had I not messed up with the opening and closing for the show. So yeah, it is unfortunate. I then obviously decide to pre-book in the shoot match between Alice Inc. and Chantel Jordan as a kind of way to hopefully boost our attendance. I have heard that if you pre-book matches, it can help because obviously people know what's coming up, they know what to get excited about and what to watch. So that is going to be what we try to do in this one. Obviously I'm not going to show you who's going to win. It will also be the end of the Strikers storyline, I think, but actually I may have one more thing for that. It kind of depends on how long we're going to end up keeping Alice Inc. around for, to be honest. We are now 15k in debt. Like I said, that's not likely to change anytime soon. We were on conservative. I think, do I change this to normal? Yeah, I do decide to change this to normal eventually, I think, because it is only 100 per week, but it's a lot faster. And I realised at this point that we could potentially get our merchandise upgraded in time for 13th hour, which obviously I'm hoping will be our most attended show because it's our season finale. It should be our biggest draw. So if we can get that merchandise money in from that show, that will obviously be a big help. Obviously most of it will be lost because of the talent that we'll be booking, but it will be a big help to kind of trying to reverse our fortunes, because at the moment that is pretty much the biggest issue that we have to be concerned about, is that we aren't making any money. I need to get our sponsorship up, but I'm pretty sure that is all based on popularity, which again is something that is not going very well for us right now. So there's a lot to look forward to for the future. There's also a lot to be anxious about for the future, I would say, because we kind of haven't got anything fully locked in yet at the moment. So there's work to be done for FWA for sure. There is work to be done. So That's the plan. Get the merchandise upgraded for 13th hour. Hopefully draw our biggest crowd yet. Get a bunch of money in from merch if people are buying it. And hopefully also increase to level 2 popularity at some point. And maybe even level 3 if we can do it in quick succession, because we need those popularity increases to really try and drive us forward and get us some more sponsorship money, get us some more merchandise money rolling in. There's a clear plan. It's just whether we're going to be able to action that plan before we potentially go out of business. But there wasn't really much other admin stuff to do besides from that. Obviously, we are planning on letting Tawanga go now. I don't know if we're going to immediately replace her. If there's someone that's not a bad value for money, we may do that. But at the moment, it's not going to be something that I'm overly concerned with. I think the roster that we've got at the moment is quite solid. I'm not really sure what I'm checking here. I think I'm just checking everybody's popularity to see how it is. I actually didn't realise that Daz Black's popularity in Southern England is actually terrible. He's basically got no popularity down here at all. Even Jackie Polo, his isn't great. So there is definitely roster work to be done. But like I said, I think I'm going to stick with the roster how it is until the end of the year. Then from the start of next year is when we will do our roster revamp. Basically, I'm going to try and go in and book a bunch of people for the show that are popular in Southern England, because I think that's what we're missing at the moment, and I think that will also help us rating wise if we can bring in a bunch of people that are just actually popular in Southern England, rather than having, we've got quite a few Scottish talents that only have minor popularity down here. Obviously they're growing, but they're not actually at the point yet where we could probably say that they're actually contributing to us growing in size. But we obviously did need to book in our next ascension with the August one now done for September. September was pretty open for us as well. I think in the end I do decide to go... Do I go earlier in September? Yeah, I think I do go for that first September weekend. Or is it the second one? I've forgotten actually in the game as well. That was really good timing, because you can see at both times out I did forget. So it is Saturday the 6th that I nailed in, and I decided I liked that. It was clear, no one was working anything. That hasn't really been the massive issue for us at the moment, but obviously as we go down the line and we book more popular talent... Oh my god, have I forgotten again? What is wrong with me? Why am I clicking on this so much? We then do swap June Lee's picture because she is a heel, and I don't think I'd actually realised that at first, because I kind of just looked at her picture, not at her actual personality. So I didn't really like having the kind of like bubbly smiling picture for someone who is a heel. That doesn't tend to be the way that works in this game. So we do swap her picture out for somebody else that looked a bit more heelish, I would say. We do then see Joe Lando's contract is coming up, and like I said, Joe Lando is an interesting one for me because I definitely want him around when he comes back. He's based in the Midlands, so at the moment we're not paying travel for him. Obviously we're not paying travel for him at all at the moment because he's not working shows, but he is someone that I actually do want around when he comes back. I'm hoping his stats don't take a hit and that the injury doesn't have too much of an impact on him. He is back June next year, so obviously it's quite a while, but I decide with him literally breaking his neck for us, and with the fact that I do want to see him and see where he's at when he's back, that we will just offer him another contract out so that it's just easy. He's here when we do want to use him, so not a problem there whatsoever. I think I'm just running through the money situation a bunch of times here as to what we're going to do and how we're going forward with it. Not really anything we haven't known about. Still can't seem to get rid of this Herman Christensen negative influence, and I don't really know how to go about getting rid of it, because like I say, when I look at him on the roster page, he's happy, but when we go into our backstage atmosphere, he's having a negative impact, which I think must be a glitch with Grifter, because he's not upset, so I don't understand. I think the way I go about this is, I can't remember if it's this episode or another episode, I do decide to partner him up with someone. For the life of me, I couldn't even tell you who it is, so that's not me being secretive. I just genuinely don't remember. So that's how I'm going to try and get around it and see if he can kind of work his personality to change. Kind of the same thing as we're doing with June Lee as well. Then we are at show night. I think I'm just checking to see who we have available on the show. I obviously had pre-booked a couple matches for this show, so I wanted to make sure that everybody was definitely available. Like I checked before, but I've kind of learnt to check more than once, because otherwise you could get to a show, and if another company has decided to book in a show, obviously that will absolutely screw you over. We only have the Echelon as a stable in our company right now. I don't know necessarily if we're going to go very stable heavy. At the moment, I'm not planning on doing too many. Obviously, stable warfare is a really cool aspect of wrestling, but I don't want to just shoehorn stables in there that kind of don't necessarily need to be there. So we're not going to force them in. I just want to do a little review of our storylines. We do have 4 at the moment, being Strikers, read all about it, Polo vs Ashton, and Dark Sisterhood, all with extremely hot ratings at the moment, which I thought was quite fortunate for us, considering that the last couple of angles that we did, a lot of them did lose heat, so we did get a little bit lucky there with that, but it was fine. We made it work anyway. And then we are at show night. I think tonight I did give Tawonga the night off because I just didn't want her on the card, really. I didn't think that she was going to offer anything on the card. I do give Mark Billington the night off. And I think this is the show where I accidentally give Scott Bell, who obviously at the moment is now our best referee, the night off. And for the life of me, I am actually watching this back with you guys. Oh no, it isn't this one. So that must be the next episode. I don't know how I managed to do it, but I do give Scott Bell the night off. But you can see actually that pre-booking one of our matches has actually drawn in, or expected to draw in, more fans. We've gone from 78 to 82. So it does seem to make somewhat of a difference. Not a massive one, but it did help a little bit. Then we move on to booking meeting, where we have 122 to spend. I then actually do realise that I didn't use any of the creative finishes that we picked up from last time round. So I do pick up a character idea. Like I said, that is something I had been thinking to do for the unhappy people that we couldn't work out why they're unhappy. I then do pick up a creative finish, which does turn out to be a bit of a gamble, so we're not going to actually probably end up using that. Alice Inc. and Josh Bevan are getting on well. We don't have an Inspire ready for this one, so I think I tried team bonding on this one. No, I put a rib on this one, but I don't actually think it ended up doing anything at all. So I was actually just scrolling through the different options, because I have never looked at these to see what the difference would be, but we keep it to minor rib because I don't want to push things too far. I think we go for Leon Cage. Oh no, Leon Cage was happy about this one, so it actually did work out very well for us in this one. And this is what we're going to be going for. In pre-show, Levi Muir will be taking on Herman Christensen. We'll then see Charlie Sterling versus Omari. Polo will then have an angle before Daz Black will take on a mystery opponent. Casey Owens, Sapphire Reed and Laura Di Matteo will go head to head for the Women's Championship. Luca DePazzi will have a match against Simon Miller. Leon Cage will take on Nick Riley. And then Alice Inc. will take on Chantel Jordan in the shoot match, which will obviously be our... Oh, it's not Nick Riley. Oh, I forgot. It's actually Kenny Williams versus Leon Cage. It's because I was impressed by Leon Cage, I wanted to give him a big challenge, but it actually is Kenny Williams, not Nick Riley. I just swapped that, and obviously we've got to swap the name back. But yeah, Alice Inc. versus Chantel Jordan will headline the card with their shoot rules match. A match that I'm looking forward to seeing, to be fair, because I'm interested to see how it goes. What did I add there? I think I just changed something. Oh, and I did add a angle for Sapphire Reed after the match. So opening match only gets a 19 overall, so again not a great pre-show match. Levi Muir does beat Herman Christensen, which isn't a surprise. A 12 for Christensen and a 26 for Levi Muir. I tried to get Levi on the card because he had been a little bit upset about missing the last couple. I think 1 or 2 he hadn't been on, so he was getting a little bit annoyed, so I thought we might as well just shove him on the card. Not a great match all in all, but it is what it is. Not really expecting too much. We do actually only end up with 79 people in the building, so disappointingly we don't end up getting the 82. We only end up getting 1 more than what was predicted. We then do have a I Quit match between Charlie Sterling and Amari. Obviously their rivalry has picked up a lot of heat recently. This was a very good match to watch in 2K, to be fair. These two played it very well. This brutal DDT onto the ladder by Charlie Sterling there, and then he was looking to snap Amari's neck across the ladder, but Amari does get to his feet but gets drilled again. Then the springboard swinging DDT from Amari switches things around temporarily, but Charlie Sterling would take the lead back before delivering a brutal pile driver on top of the chair, but Amari would not quit. So then the beatdown would start to come in from Charlie Sterling, just wearing out Amari. You can see he lined up his head here again on the ladder. I thought he was going to try and take his head off again, but ended up going for the arm. But definitely a painful angle, and then the weight across the head, the back and head of Charlie Sterling, so it did go to that head eventually. You can then start to see the high-flying skills of Amari coming through here, kind of switching momentum back. Roll through blockbuster here. Really cool move, actually. I like that a lot. But Charlie Sterling would still be in this one, hitting a big shining wizard. Neither men willing to quit at the moment. A headbutt there. A scary table spot. Almost sees a Spanish fly through the table from Amari on Charlie Sterling, but the table does unfortunately collapse. Then Amari starts wearing out Charlie with the trash can, driving his head off the bottom of it. You can see that Sterling is rocked, but does manage to get control back, taking over that arm, and this was one of the moves he used early on to help Jackie Polo beat Amari for the undisputed title. Amari, though, remembering that and starting to pull out brutal offense of his own, fully switching things into his favor before hitting his finish. But that wasn't enough for him. He didn't want Charlie Sterling to be able to get away with just that, locking in a brutal submission on top of the table as well. You can see Charlie Sterling's shoulder driving into the metal of the table, as well as Amari wrenching on the arm. The referee was watching close to make sure, see if Charlie Sterling could get out, but Charlie Sterling, you can see, is absolutely wrapped up after being hit with that finisher as well, is in trouble, and that would be enough to see Charlie Sterling utter the words "I quit," and that would see Amari beat him, moving past that mini rivalry he was having with one of the Echelon members. And now you'd have to imagine that Amari has his eyes firmly locked on the undisputed champion and the undisputed championship. This match did pull in a 41, which was pretty good all in all. Charlie Sterling getting a 43 with Amari getting a 33. So you can see that it did work well. We did have a creative finish on this one as well. Amari, I think Amari had to win. Obviously, he's not performing to a higher level at the moment, but I think he had to win this one just because it makes sense for the story that we're kind of forming with this whole Echelon thing. You can see that there is hints of a Charlie Sterling face turn, but at the moment it isn't going well, so I haven't pulled the trigger on that. But after suffering defeat, Charlie Sterling is looking disappointed in the ring before the undisputed champ Jackie Polo makes his way down to the ring, unleashing a tirade on Sterling about his disappointment in him losing to Amari and failing to keep up with him in the Echelon, before Sterling quietly makes his way to ringside as Daz Black is up next, and Polo wants both of them down at ringside for his match. So a 22 for this one, not the best overall. It did help advance the segment. Jackie Polo did well interacting with the crowd. Again, Charlie Sterling, they're not keen on this face turn at the moment, but we don't know if it's necessarily going to happen. But in Daz Black's match, he's up against, which I kind of spoiled earlier, Nick Riley, who is obviously the partner of Charlie Sterling, who Charlie Sterling didn't know was joining FWA. Nick Riley does defeat Daz Black during the match. Obviously, we saw Charlie Sterling kind of being surprised, and actually Charlie Sterling stopped Daz Black from illegally winning the match, which distracted Daz and actually helped Nick Riley get the win. Again, Daz Black not really living up to things with only a 29 in this one, but Nick Riley coming in with an absolutely huge 41. So big performance from Nick Riley in this one. Daz Black and Nick Riley did have good chemistry, but we probably won't be seeing that match any time soon again, so unfortunately it doesn't really mean much in this one. I know that's probably a bit meaningless, but it is what it is. We then will move on to the triple threat match, Casey Owens, Sapphire Reed and Laura Di Matteo, which I was hoping was going to be a pretty good match. Like I said, we were kind of transitioning Raven Creed out of this one, as she was the weakest performer, it's perceived, out of the 4 in the tag match. But yeah, so this one is for the women's FWA women's title. Obviously, Laura Di Matteo, we're kind of trying to find someone at the moment to kind of live up to the level of Laura Di Matteo. She's absolutely running through the division as it stands. I was hoping Shanna might be that person, but Shanna unfortunately didn't really live up to the levels that I was hoping she would do. Maybe she would have done with a little bit more time, but Sapphire Reed I think is probably the next closest, with Casey Owens and Chantel Jordan just behind her, so we'll see how this one progresses. But yeah, in this triple threat match, actually I don't really like triple threat matches on 2K too much, but this one actually did have some decent aspects of triple threat matches. You can see kind of the offense rattling between all 3, and there's an interesting moment there with Casey managing to get both of her opponents down. Laura Di Matteo would then start unleashing some brutal stomp offense on Casey Owens here, who was becoming a little bit of a punching bag, but you can see the weapons are starting to fly out here, which is actually Casey Owens' weapon that she brought down to the ring in her entrance. Laura Di Matteo then hitting a double underhook DDT, which I'm not sure if that's somebody else's finisher. Excuse the pause there, I'm not really sure why that happened. But then she switches her attention towards Sapphire Reed, delivering a brutal knee to her, then going for the cover. But Sapphire would still manage to keep herself in this one. We would then see Laura completely take control of the match, locking in the rings of Saturn on Casey Owens, looking for the tap, but Sapphire would slide it through the back, kicking Laura Di Matteo and delivering a knee drop to her face after she tried to tap out her opponent. Casey Owens was picking up all the weapons, delivering a chair shot there to the champion, as you can see, before the champion decides that she wants to do a little bit of weapon action herself. Sapphire Reed hitting the Shining Wizard and going for the cover, but Laura Di Matteo was in there to break things up. Obviously, there was an alliance between Laura Di Matteo and Sapphire Reed last week when they teamed up to take on Casey Owens and Raven Creed, so you can see most of the offense is centered around Casey Owens kind of being the one that both women are going after, but obviously there's a title on the line, so there is going to be interaction between all 3. Laura Di Matteo taking out Casey Owens there with the knee, trying to go after Sapphire, but Sapphire was ready for her with a brutal elbow to the face. She would then look for the suplex, but Laura would manage to escape from behind before locking in another Rings of Saturn, but this time on Sapphire Reed, looking for the tap once again. You can see Casey Owens just managing to make her way to her feet, however Sapphire Reed would manage to get out of it herself, but Casey Owens would come in and kind of try and take credit for both women being down. Then we would see Casey lock in the submissions, so all 3 of these women going for submission offense early on. Laura Di Matteo does get back in the ring to break that one up, however, and then try and take advantage, slamming Casey's head into the mat, then looking, she didn't look for a finisher here yet, whipping her off into the corner. Casey would then look for a spinning back kick, but it would miss. Laura was determined to get Casey in this corner, does eventually get there, goes for the scoop slam, but is reversed into the DDT as Sapphire comes in with the kendo stick, delivering it to the spine of Casey Owens, the woman she has been in a bit of a rivalry with before snapping it over the back of the champion and hitting that huge belly to belly. She was lining up for her finisher. She would deliver the Shining Wizard to Casey Owens, but the champion, using all of her smarts, would roll up the younger competitor in Sapphire Reed and get the surprise 3 roll up and retain her championship. So like I said, there was an alliance between the two last week, but this week the champion not taking the short route, because she obviously didn't, because she got the win, but taking maybe the more, I don't know how to phrase it, the easier route, I would say. Like, it wasn't easy still, because she had to go through all the competitors still, but you know, a roll up from behind like that, as Sapphire looked like she was about to win the match potentially, it kind of creates tension between the two, I would say. But this does deliver a big 47, so a very good match all in all. You can see all the women are in the 40 range, with Laura Di Matteo being at the top end of the 40s and the other two being at the lower end. All two storylines do progress and gain heat as well, which is pretty good. Laura Di Matteo was off her game, but still managed to be the top performer in the match, so you really can't complain about that if she's still pulling in 47s while being off her game. But I think the interesting thing for me will now be, we have to kind of build someone to be Laura Di Matteo's next challenger, really. I think I want it to be Sapphire Reed, but it could also be Chantel Jordan, depending on what happens in her match. But after the match, an argument would break out between Laura and Sapphire. Obviously, Sapphire being unhappy with Laura rolling her up. Casey and Raven would try and use the distraction to their advantage, but Laura and Sapphire fight them off before Sapphire then drops Laura with a huge shot and then proceeds to pick up the FWA women's title and raise it above her head, making it very clear that things aren't done between her and the champ. So obviously Sapphire not feeling like Laura take the kind of sportsman way in that match, so she is not done with her yet. Again, both storylines progressing, but they do lose heat after just gaining it, which isn't great. A 38 for this one, so a pretty good rating for a segment all in all. We do also have Sapphire Reed working well with the crowd, so pretty decent all in all. In the next match, we do have Luca DePazzi defeating Simon Miller by pinfall after illegally using the ropes. My idea was to try and get some momentum back on the side of Luca DePazzi after his absolute shit show last week with his terrible angle. He does only get a 27 to Simon Miller's 36 though, so I think again maybe we were looking towards the wrong side of this, so that may have to be something that we look at. But we do see that June Lee did do some good work at ringside, so that's a positive that she's doing well as a manager at least. But yeah, all in all, maybe Luca DePazzi isn't the guy that I want to be pushing forward. But then moving on to the next match, we would see Kenny Williams take on Leon Cage and win by pinfall with a swinging DDT. Does get a 42, so Leon Cage is showing up absolutely huge at the beginning of this one. Like I said, when I signed him, I didn't know that he was an actual wrestler. I thought he was a regen, but he does get a 40 to Kenny Williams' 41, so keeping pace with the Cruiserweight champion, which is pretty impressive for a young wrestler. So we may have a gem on our hands here and someone to definitely keep an eye on going forward. So yeah, definitely not done between these two, I wouldn't say. But then in our main event, the shoot match, obviously, that we knew that was coming up, we do see Chantel Jordan take on Alice Inc. Now, I didn't really know how to frame this one in 2K. We do decide to swap up their attires to make it clear that this is a different match, it's a shoot match. And I kind of decided to go with the theme that you could have one part of your body kind of uncovered as your dangerous part, and this one looked like it may end early as you see Alice Inc. throw Chantel off the ropes and then hit a huge spinning back kick which dropped Chantel into the cover before Alice would look for the submission with the side headlock, but wouldn't end up being so. Chantel would answer with a big spinning kick here again that looked like it could end things, but then Chantel going for a bit more of the submission offense, trying to wear down Alice Inc.'s legs. Obviously both women got very educated feet, so they know they need to take that out. Brutal stomps from Chantel there, just stomping the face of Alice into the mat for delivering that pile driver as well. Looked like she may have this one wrapped up using actually a conventional wrestling move, which isn't something that we necessarily thought we would see in a shoot fight, but it still can be used. Obviously, like I say, it's a shoot fight, you can win the match however you want. But you see Chantel does take over the early goings of this one, goes for a big dive from the top, but is caught by Alice and slammed down to the mat before Alice would drag her over to the middle and start unleashing brutal kicks. A knockout kick to the head, which is obviously a kick that is a favourite of Chantel Jordan's. So it looked like Alice may be about to beat Chantel with what is effectively her own move. Unfortunately for Alice, Chantel would manage to kick out. I think Alice just took a little bit too long to get to the pin. Snap German from Alice as she started to get momentum on her side. You see she's trying to get in the head of her younger challenger. Kick to the spine there before she would lock in an armbar and try and tap out Chantel Jordan here. Chantel looked like she was in trouble, to be honest. She was in the middle of the ring, not near the ropes, but she does manage to just get out. Alice, though, lines her up, going for another one of those big roundhouse kicks, but she does get countered this time round. Chantel sending her off into the ropes before hitting a big swinging neck breaker, and again, Chantel going to the well of kind of your typical wrestling moves to try and get herself out of this one. Does go for a roundhouse of her own, but Alice would manage to avoid it, just trying to create a little bit of distance, but Chantel would keep the offense on. Big German suplex. You can even see a chair, not a chair, sorry, a trash can brought into the ring, but a brutal strike combination here would stun Chantel, and that would be enough for Alice to put her down on the mat and actually get the 1-2-3 and walk away as your victor in this one. So the shoot match does go over to Alice Inc. Obviously, it was somewhat of a surprise that Chantel managed to beat Alice last time out, but Alice getting her win back this time. So yeah, you can see, obviously I have changed there, that the Striker storyline has not finished on this one. So I was originally planning on only having Alice in for this appearance and then moving her on, but I just kind of like this rivalry. I don't know what it is, I just like it. It feels good. I like watching the two of them interact. So good ratings for both, a 34 for Alice, 37 for Chantel, so they do work well together. A 41 overall as well. Creative finish was deployed in this one and was a success, so it was pretty decent. I was kind of hoping it would be a little bit better, but it was decent, I would say, so we definitely can't complain. I'd say this is probably one of our most well-balanced shows as well. Starts off hot with Amari and Sterling, then does lose a little bit of heat before getting a massive jump again, then again kind of solid, and then a good solid finish as well. So I think it was a well-balanced show all in all. We do decide to praise Sapphire Reed, obviously, with her having lost, and also Leon Cage as well, because I kind of want to keep Leon Cage on side because he is looking to be a very interesting prospect going forward. Sapphire Reed did get a bit of a morale boost on that one. We do save a bit of money on this one, they're only losing 1,600 this time round, but still, obviously, it's more money than we want to be losing in an ideal world. But like I say, eventually the plan is that we will nip that in the bud and we will get some gains. So, do we go up in popularity? That is the real question off of this one, and we do finally make it up to 2. So a popularity increase will be huge for our sponsorship money going forward. Be huge for our merch as well, because I think we should get more merch sales because we are now slightly more popular. Obviously, it's absolutely miles away from where we want to be in terms of our popularity. We want to be like all the way up there as high as we can possibly go, but slow gains, we'll take it at the moment. We do actually only end up having this show be our 4th best show out of everything we've done in year 1 so far, so not too much to write home about, but we obviously are now approaching 13th hour and then New Dawn next year, so it's approaching, I would say, the business end of things for us. That 13th hour show, I can't stress enough, is probably going to be our biggest show, as it should be, but of the save as of yet, because obviously that is the one where I'm hoping to make big gains. We do get a new top match as well from the August show, which is Kenny Williams, Daz Black and Zosiah. Laura Di Matteo, Casey Owens and Sapphire Reed slots in as our 2nd best show. Kenny Williams still in the top 3 as well with his match against El Desperado, but it is really dominated by Kenny Williams and Laura Di Matteo matches at the moment. Zosiah does sneak in there with a Liu King sharp one, and then Amari Charlie Sterling does sneak into number 5, but like the whole top 10 is just Kenny and Laura basically, so we definitely got the 2 best people leading us forward at the moment, I would say, in terms of matches and the divisions that we are prioritizing. So I think we're doing things well here. Obviously it's a bit weird to have the heavyweight title as kind of 3rd best to our other titles, but I think when you have a clear leading division or 2 leading divisions as we have, I think it just makes sense to do it the way that we're doing it. So this one was interesting because, you know, I've been kind of trying to keep things to weekend bookings in terms of when we're going to put our shows on, but with the idea of extending our rivalry between Chantel and Alice, I was kind of thinking here, if we could potentially extend this to finish at 13th hour with there only being 2 more months, which obviously is only 2 more shows, and if you look at the early stuff in October, Alice Inc. is actually booked for a lot of the beginning of October. So I think in my head I was thinking here, if we book it for the 4th, Alice Inc. actually isn't available to work that show. So in a way that works in our favour because we don't have to book her on a show. We can just have an angle kind of thing. Then we can book her in November, and then in December we have 13th hour, which obviously is the big payoff show. We can pay off the rivalry there, we can end things there. So that was basically what was going through my head here. We can kind of get off free with not having to book her for a show, so we're not overusing her, we're not overspending. So that is what we're going to end up going for. I can't lie to you, the next 2 shows I don't think are going to be absolutely stacked, because obviously, like I say, I'm kind of building now towards 13th hour being our, obviously, finale, being the big payoff show, so I don't want to do too much crazy stuff. I might try and recoup some money, but that also might go completely wrong, and I might end up spending even more money and bringing in even more bodies, so we'll just have to wait and see, basically. But that is the end of this one. Please like, subscribe, turn on the notification bell to get notified by when the next episode is available to you, and I hope to see you in it. And I hope in it we can start getting a bit more popular and getting a bit more money. But anyway, I'm going to shut up now. Peace.